Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB!
Yes.
43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole. Throws it up. Got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
I win! Google me, baby! How is everybody doing? Welcome aboard. Thanks a lot for joining us here on another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. It's January 11th. Hope everybody's having a good week. About over with. You've only got 2 more days to get through. And you're already on this one, so all things are good. Lots to get to. Oh, my gosh. The stuff that happened yesterday. I don't know that anything is bigger than the retirement of Nick Saban. We'll talk about that on the program today. Shannon Griffith will join us. We'll talk some Indiana football. Tyler Smith previewing tomorrow night's Indiana basketball game with Minnesota. The women play Iowa on Saturday, and the Caitlin Clark effect, while that will have no bearing in Bloomington because the attendance there has been superb, I'm going to assume Assembly Hall is going to be full, but we'll get to that as well. Bill Belichick, the coach of the Patriots for 24 seasons, he gone. Not only that, Pete Carroll, also out in Seattle. 14 seasons, 10 playoffs, a Super Bowl win. College basketball, holy cow. Numbers 1, 2, 3, 5 down this week. Number 4, UConn, defending national champion, up on the clock next. We'll get to all of that. Lots to talk about. The AP Top 25, a 75-year history of that. I started writing something on that yesterday. Didn't have time to finish it. Was at the Pacers game last night as they also win. Knocking off Washington without Tyrese Halliburton. The Pacers, of course, he's going to be out for a couple of weeks with that hamstring strain. But they win 112-104. We'll talk to Chris Denari about that later. Great to see him last night. But plenty to talk about. Holy cow. And I'm sure that you guys will bring a few things up as well. Appreciate everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline early and often. There's a suspension. That's Michigan, right? What is that about? That's the weirdest suspension that I've seen. Michigan point guard Doug McDaniel has been suspended for the team's next 6 road games. That was announced yesterday by Michigan, but of course, we all know they do things differently there. He'll be active for the home games. I've never seen this that I can recall. This is just unique, but I don't recall this ever being handed out in this manner. It begins with a trip to Maryland on Thursday. Oh, here's a great quote starting off. "We have very high standards within our program, culture, and university," said Juwan Howard, the man who swung at another coach. "Serving as mentors, we need to set the standards and pathways for our young men to succeed," said the man who swung at another coach. "Beginning with our game at Maryland, Doug McDaniel will not travel to road games until further notice. Doug will dress for home games. However, when we are away from Ann Arbor, he will work towards meeting several academic goals he has set and needs to meet, said the man who swung at another coach. So obviously this is academic related. Great to see that. Holding people accountable. Wow. In any form or fashion. That's different. But now whether he plays in those home games, that's going to be interesting to see. If he does, that's a weird suspension, man. That is just a weird deal. Yeah, that one's different. So Zach Edey's atop is the Wooden Award winning list right now, of course. Who's gonna? I mean, does anyone have a shot at knocking him off of that? I mean, Armando Bacot, John L. Davis from FAU is on there, but Hunter Dickinson, Kansas, they get beat last night. Yeah, Dalton Connect, one of the players that Indiana tried, failed to get. Caleb Love, there's another one. A lot of guys on that list. But, yeah, there's that. That's just an odd, well, Zach Edey, no one, and he's going to become, it's very, very rare for a player to win back-to-back years. But we'll see how they do. Nick Saban. I saw that, and I'm like, whoa. And it's not like he's 25. He's 72. But they did a great job in ignoring those questions that popped up during the college football playoffs or immediately afterwards. And then, boom. Howie's got a girl in every port violation. Uh-oh.
Can I say this about Nick Saban? I am very glad that we are not getting the Mike Krzyzewski style farewell tour, and instead he's just kind of letting it be. The season's over. Could you imagine if instead of announcing that he was retiring now, that he was going to retire at the end of next season? That would be all of the headlines for the next 12 months around college football. Would be how they're celebrating each and every stop on Nick Saban's farewell tour the same way they did with Mike Krzyzewski.
And do you know why you're not having to deal with that?
Because he's more of a decent human being than Mike Krzyzewski. I mean, that's maybe that's a bad thing to say, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to deal with that crap.
He's not He's not trying to grab attention the way the coach.
He wouldn't deal with that crap. No, there's no way in hell he would deal with that. He was like, nope. He did it his way. 17 seasons at Alabama, 6 national championships.
That's higher than a 33% winning percentage, I guess, right?
It's nuts. I mean, he's going to go down as, I don't know, is he the greatest head coach in college football history? I think so, because of the era he did it in. He did it before the transfer portal. He did it after the transfer portal. They didn't win a national championship, but they were in the college football playoffs this year. So, and lost to the eventual national champion. But yeah, he'll be doing TV someplace without question.
Yeah. He'll be just like Urban Meyer for Fox. I mean, I'm sure Saban will likely be affiliated with ESPN considering their ties with the SEC. But yeah, you'll almost surely see Nick Saban on one of the networks.
Was talking about that very thing last night. There's no way that ESPN lets him get away if he's going to do television, because they will, like you just said, they have the SEC coming up. So that would be kind of stupid for that not to be the case. But yeah, who's going to replace him? Steve Sarkisian at Texas, big name that's popped up. Dan Lanning, I've seen reports that he has been in Tuscaloosa. interviewing for the job. And the next name that has popped up, Kalen DeBoer.
We mentioned him a little bit yesterday as well in the afternoon show, and I've got to say, if Kalen DeBoer were to land in Tuscaloosa, he would have had, I mean, I don't know if there's a coach who would have had such a meteoric rise to a program of that stature as quickly as he has, if he ends up taking that job or getting it in the first place.
No, because I'd have to pull up his Wikipedia, but how far back is it that he was at the NAIA level? I mean, it's been a while, probably not that long though. He doesn't have this. A lot of assistants
dates back
coach
to 2000 to 2005. From 2005 to 2009, he was the head coach at Sioux Falls, where he won 3 out of 5 NAIA championships that he appeared in. And then he was assistant for several years.
So in the 15 years, he's gone from NAIA to being mentioned as a candidate for the Alabama job. Whether he gets it or not, it doesn't matter. He's being mentioned as a candidate.
Absolutely.
So we'll look forward to that. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll continue this conversation after on the other side of that. Shannon Griffith will join us. Perfect segue into that, because we'll talk some Indiana football, but more on the retirement of Nick Saban, but more importantly, who replaces him? Man, talk about some shoes to fill. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Good morning, Sir Shannon.
Good morning. How is everybody?
Hello.
Tough week for the Hoosiers. Basketball wise.
You know who an impersonation you should be able to do?
Who's that?
You should be able to nail this. Jim Irsay. I mean, I think I do a moderately okay Irsay, but your voice is already in that direction. The guitar in the background. We're just gonna play a little ditty for you, man. Me and my band. We're gonna try to entertain you a little bit here. I don't expect too much, man, but we're gonna give it a whirl.
I have to start smoking some cigs.
Hey, that'd be appropriate for Signetti.
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's the funniest thing about that. I mean, everybody always you jumps to the nickname in life, and that's so easy for him. But cigarettes are so out.
They're trying to bring them back with all the memes.
And they're so unhealthy and out, and yet that is going to be Indiana's unofficial football mascot going forward.
Yeah. It's kind of ironic that they even let it go on, in that regard.
You can't stop it.
Yeah, I know.
I think the thought is this is the most positive people have been about Indiana football since, I guess, 2020. Yeah, so why not just let it happen?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, they'll take any positive attention they can get.
I said, imagine if people start smoking cigarettes after every touchdown. They light up a cigarette in the stands.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
It's going to reek of tobacco in Memorial Stadium.
This next snowstorm, I was hoping it stays north of us. Otherwise, we're going to get slammed.
It's coming down to my neck of the woods in Louisville. It's going to be bad here.
When?
This weekend.
Yeah, starting Friday and Saturday.
Damn it.
Chicagoland's supposed to get like 18 inches of snow.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I saw
All right, here we go, guys. 10 seconds.
perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. It is Thursday. Appreciate you being with us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Shannon Griffith joins us now, as he does each week. Talk some football, and there is no way we can start this without talking Nick Saban, man. What a little bit of a shocker. It shouldn't be, but it was. I was like, whoa! It caught me off guard when I saw that.
Yeah, and the way that he kind of announced it, even amongst his players and staff. I mean, even his coaches didn't know until he informed the team in a team meeting that he was essentially retiring. So he threw some chaos into his staff right off the bat, because now these guys are potentially all looking for jobs, especially if they go to the outside to bring somebody in, potentially, just because most coaches want to bring their own people in. But
yeah, but is there an outside when it comes to Alabama? I mean, it spreads so damn. His coaching tree alone is so vast. It's like he doesn't have a coaching tree; he has an orchard.
Yeah, he's there. They will not want for the interest of that job, both from people that have been there, played there, as well as those that have some type of connection to Saban. I have officially announced that I'm not in the running for the job.
Damn. That was my next question. It was coming.
But it does sound like they're moving relatively quickly. It sounds like the Lanning from Oregon may be the guy that's the top choice if you buy
Which
into.
Surprised me a little bit. I thought that Sarkisian would have been not necessarily get the job, but I would have thought he would have been their top choice.
Well, yeah. And I think the one thing there is that now with NIL, he's probably in a more, I guess you call it richer environment for the NIL thing than Alabama is. And then that's one thing that I think Saban battled, and probably why he retired, is that the landscape of college football has changed so much within the last 5 years. It's gotten to the point where I don't think philosophically, he just can't stomach it anymore in terms of what's going on and how that impacts him. And, what is he, 70 years old or something to that extent?
72.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get paid pretty good to go be talking head on.
He could do anything he wants for free for the rest of his life. He's made $1 gazillion, to quote Forrest Gump.
Yeah,
$1 gazillion.
He could have his shrimp boat.
I think that's the exact number that was on his Alabama contract. $1 gazillion. I think that's exactly what it said.
Well, there's no question that he has been a very successful college football coach.
He's been one of the most successful coaches in the history of sports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
college football is not a sport that is dominated to that level. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Clemson. Yeah, they had a run, but they didn't win 6 national championships.
Right.
Michigan, they're doing good as well, but they won their first national championship outright since 1940?
Right.
So it ain't easy, peeps. It just ain't easy. Nobody else did. Georgia couldn't do it. Yeah,
well, if you look at Alabama before he went there, I mean, it was a little bit in chaos because they had gone through about 3 or 4 coaches trying to find the right match, and they found him because he was at LSU. Was he at LSU when he went to Alabama? I can't remember. I know there was a Miami Dolphins stop in there somewhere, but
that's right.
He did, he brought consistency to the program And it just took off from there. I mean, they became the juggernaut of all of college football. They were going to get all the best players that, were at the top of the heap for the most part. And, just, there's not too much things to say about Coach Saban other than, well done, sir. You have proven yourself as a great leader.
No question about that. He won a state championship as a quarterback in high school.
Yeah.
With a team that had 33 guys on it, because that's all the amount of uniforms they could afford to have. So that's how many players they had.
Yeah, he was at his first job at Toledo was my last year playing at Ball State, I believe. It was in between that and my GA ship, but he was there at Toledo, and he just took off on the fast track to the big time from there.
What's something I saw that was ironic? He was at Michigan State for 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
He lost 4, and he was at Alabama for 17. He lost 4 more games at Alabama over 17 seasons than he did at Michigan State over 4.
Just some of the dynamics in his career. You just kind of, like I said, it's tremendous job that he's done, and he's been a positive impact on the profession of college football and coaches. And he's made a lot of impacts, not only on players, but, you talked about Steve Sarkisian. He'll tell you he saved his life. He saved his career, he saved his life in a lot of ways. And because he had a belief in him, and he found him in a better, got him in a better point. So he's done a lot for a lot of different people, not just players, but coaches as well.
And this is one where I'm going to say Nick Saban is going to say have nothing to do with who the replacement is, because how's he going to? I don't think he would or could pick one. I mean, there's too many, and not necessarily all. I don't think Lanning doesn't even have a connection to Saban or Alabama, does he?
Well, his connection would be via Kirby Smart, and then I think Nick had initially tried to hire him at one point as well. I think they were aware of his talents, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So, there's going to be a connection there just from an SEC standpoint, and him having coached in that division and league is probably going to give him as good of opportunity to take that job. It'll be an interesting dynamic because Oregon probably has about as much money as Alabama does. Phil Knight can throw some dollars into the coffer when he needs to keep him.
I would be shocked if Dan Lanning does not come out of this with a fat ass new raise.
Yeah, he's going to have a pocket full of money, I guess you could say.
Yeah, now Kalen DeBoer has his name's been mentioned, as it should be.
Well, sure.
All this dude does is win.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it. He did it at Washington. I don't know how much people know about this, but they were 4-8. Yeah. This team that he took to the national championship game was 4-8. Was it 3 seasons ago?
Yeah, 2 or 3. I believe so, yes.
So 4-8, people. Now, they did not have Michael Penix then. It was the year before Michael Penix arrived. So these last 2 seasons, it was the 3 seasons back. 4-8. So when you think about that, whether you think about rejuvenating Purdue and Indiana, 4-8 is what Washington was. But they hired the right damn guy, and guess what? He got stuff done. That's what he does. He wins.
Well,
Google him. You want to Google somebody? Google Kalen DeBoer.
Well, 2 things there. Washington is not necessarily the easiest place to recruit in the terms of the Pac-12 and kind of where they stand in that regard. Also, he did a great job with the portal, and he understands that through and through. But here's another guy that's gone through his profession in I guess I would call it the right way. He's earned all his opportunities because of what he did at Sioux Falls. Then he went to, Indiana as a coordinator, to Fresno State. And I mean, his progression to the top was done through means that not everybody takes. I mean, he's paid his dues, but yeah, I don't necessarily think that he maybe fits at Alabama, but
dude, see, that's where I disagree. I think Kalen DeBoer fits anywhere, and it's because of his personality. And this was something I was reading earlier, and it was just the coolest compliment. And I'll have to go back and try to find it, but it was from the Washington State coach who says, we all talk about living in the moment and this. He goes, but that's Kalen DeBoer. He goes, he's just a cool cat. It's just that's how he is. And he talked about, he goes, their team was 4-8 3 seasons ago. He goes, he did that. He says, that's incredible. And so when you have another coach, a rival coach, talking about you like that, hey man, I would love to see it but then he would be out of the Big Ten. So that I don't want to see. I'd rather see him stay in the Big Ten. Looking forward to seeing him when he comes in to Bloomington next year. And there's no way you turn down Alabama if that offer was ever made. You do not turn that down. No. But also, you would be replacing the Giant. That's a whole different. That's now we're talking a different scenario. Which, if there's anybody that I think could just step in and do that, is Kalen DeBoer, because he's a cool cat. He does not. That stuff reflects off of him, man. And who doesn't want to go play for Kalen DeBoer?
There's no question he's even keeled. You never know. He's never too high. He's never too low. He's as steady as anybody you're going to see on the sideline and off the field. I think what you see is what you get with him. And but as a football coach, a guy that's won, you're right. He, in a terms of handling that, being walking into those shoes at Alabama, that I don't necessarily think they'd be overly too big for him, just because of, like you just discussed there, and his history in coaching. I don't think they can go wrong with that either. I mean, if that's who they so choose to have as their candidate. But both him and Lanning would both be tremendous assets in that regard. You may want to be the guy after the guy who replaced.
I always say that, man. You don't want to be the guy after. You want to be the guy after the guy, because that way the expectations are way down. Anything you do looks good. I always said that about Bob Knight. I go, man, you did not want to be the guy replacing the guy, unless you kept it rolling, which this is a different. I'll get onto this tangent later, but I'm trying to get a story written yesterday, but I ran out of time. Hoping finish it today. But why IU basketball fans cling to IU basketball, and it's because that after 75, the AP Top 25 is celebrating 75 years, and so they put out a basketball compilation that shows over that 75 years of the poll rankings and where teams are. Kentucky is the overall number 1 team. Then you've got your usual suspects: Duke, Kansas, UCLA. Indiana is number 8. Still, after 75 years, they're number 8. So that talk about Indiana is not a blue blood. Oh God, they do. Yep, they sure are. I don't care. I know that it has not been what it was, but guess what? There has been between here and their last Final Four was in 2002, but there was the number 1 ranking in between then. There was 2 Big Ten titles in between then. So they didn't exactly fall off the face of the planet.
Oh, no.
And they're still the number 8 all-time ranked team in the AP poll after 75 years. Duke didn't win. It took Duke 58 years of basketball to reach a Final Four. Indiana already hung 2 national championship banners in that period. It took them another 27 after that to win their first title. So there are just big old gaps when you're not going to be successful. And with Saban stepping away, I wonder if he's 72. So, you don't really need a reason. There's the reason. What else is he going to do? He's won 6 damn national championships. He just went to the college football playoffs again. But it has changed. Look at Dabo Swinney and how Clemson has been impacted since the portal. The portal has changed everything, even for these big programs. You look at college basketball. That's why San Diego State Florida Atlantic in the Final Four last year. You just don't know who's going to be successful now, and it's just different. And what a perfect time for him to step away. But he will go down as, to me, he is the greatest college football coach without question of all time. I don't care, because he did it now, not 1,000 years ago when there were no rules.
Right.
And while I'm sure that there was probably just a little bit of cheating going on at Alabama, if you listen to what Jimbo Fisher piped up after Nick Saban chirped about them having the best roster money could buy. He's like, wait, and Nick Saban went bloop. The greatest clip ever, John. I don't know how quickly you can get to it, but my favorite clip, Calamari. He shut. Boy, I've never seen Saban shut up so fast. He shut up as fast as one of his former players as they were preparing for the national championship game. I guess it was against, who did Kyle Murray play for? Was it Oklahoma?
It was Oklahoma. I don't have the clip in front of me
Murray.
right now, but during the break, I'll try and have it for us for next segment.
It's my favorite clip of all time. They're at the pre-game pressers with all the players and whatnot, and someone asked the lineman about playing against. Have you played against a quarterback the caliber of Kyler Murray? And he's, no, I have not played against Calamari, but I don't think Calamari is. I'm good. It was like Nick Saban. I say this every time, but it was like Nick Saban reached down from the heavens and grabbed him by the throat and said, and whispered in his ear, "Shut up."
Yeah.
Because I've never seen someone be able to pull that back as well as he did. But it will always be funny to me. But man, that's going to be fun watching. But not just Nick Saban. Someone else just pointed out as well. We talked about you're losing all these great coaches. Bill Belichick. You don't have to like him. Damn it. He won 6 Super Bowls. Most successful coach in the history of the NFL in that regards. It's Pete Carroll, who took Seattle to 10 playoffs in 14 seasons and a Super Bowl. Also out. And both of these guys didn't really go on their own. It was a mutual agreement, I guess you would say. Mutual parting of ways. But just think of the drain right there, the coaching drain between those 3 guys. Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, bam.
Yeah, and high probability Belichick will end up at somewhere else, because I don't think he's necessarily done.
I don't know.
Yeah, well,
he's limping. He looks like an 80-year-old guy limping around the sidelines. I'm like, Now he's somebody I could see that would be great on TV.
Yeah, he wouldn't say much. Oh, you mean Carroll? You said Carroll, or okay, yeah, Carroll would. Yeah, he's got the personality to be a pretty good commentator, studio commentator as well. But yeah, we're facing a change in our in the coaching profession, especially in the world of football, when you talk about the changeover that's happening now because guys are aging out with Carroll and Belichick and Saban. And it's time for a new wave of individuals to kind of step into those shoes and, become that next, bright light on the hill type of thing.
I wonder if Alabama Googled Kurt Signetti.
Well, he worked there, so he had Nick's blessing, I'm assuming. But
speaking of Nick's coaching tree, Indiana got a little branch. Indiana has a branch of that.
Yes, they do, and he's been lighting the world on fire when it comes to putting his roster together. That's for sure.
Yeah, and he has completed his entire staff now. I think the last pieces of that were the strength and conditioning team, which, unlike basketball where you have Cliff Marshall, the football staff, that's like 5 different guys on that staff. It's like, man, the guy has a guy.
Yeah, it's important.
But his staff is complete. And the thing about his staff, though, that I do like, I can't believe the amount of guys he has that has been with him for as long as they have been.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big part of Tom Allen's problem. He lost Kalen DeBoer and Kane Womack, and it was over.
Yeah,
it was over. I mean, that run ended immediately. But the difference, again, and I was going to make this comparison, and I love Tom Allen to death, but think about the 2 guys that we just talked about, Nick Saban, Kalen DeBoer. They were both just in the national championship game. When a great play is made, they're not. Neither of them are running around, jumping up and down and celebrating. They're thinking about what's up next. Where are we? And that I've said that a lot about Tom. He would be all jumping up in the middle of the players' dog pile. Instead of, where are we? What do you got? Yeah. Okay, boom, boom. What do we got going? And to me, that's a huge difference. Huge difference. And that's why I think that Tom will be a great coordinator for a long time. But he has to not until that leaves his system, which it might not ever. Which that's part of his deal, though, which is cool. The positivity. It's not the positivity. It's just the in the moment thing, man. You got to be ahead of the moment. You are the one guy. You celebrate later. You celebrate tonight. You don't celebrate right this second. So there's that. Josh said that Nick Saban bought a large house in a car dealership in Jupiter, Florida last year. In retrospect, we probably should have seen. Well, all those guys have houses in Florida, but yeah, you could have definitely read the tea leaves and knew it was coming. You just didn't know when. Of course it was coming. I mean, again, he's 72. We knew it's had to come at some point.
And he's been alluding to it here over the last few weeks and such. I even think I think it was on Pat McAfee. He even mentioned about retirement and when he thought it was time he was going to, exit stage left.
Pat McAfee? You mean the show that Aaron Rodgers is no longer allowed on? What is up with that whack job? He's a whack job. And you know what? He's going to end up losing, if he hasn't already, his State Farm deal.
Yeah. Well, he's this is part of the problem that he probably had in Green Bay, is that sometimes he interjects himself into conversations that he should just let die and not make statements or have an opinion about something that's, there just doesn't need to be a conversation on. But I know in Green Bay, he kind of wore his welcome out just because he wanted more say in the personnel that they were bringing in and so forth and so on. So, he's a little different in that arena. A Cal grad, so I'm not so sure you can't say that. That hasn't played a part in some of his stuff, but it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy how that all transpired and how it got onto the airways on a sports radio show or a sports talk show.
Josh says that between the Super Bowls, I was thinking about this a second ago, but I came up with a different number. I'm missing some championships there. He said there's 16, where I know that Saban had 6, Belichick had 6, there's 12. Carroll had a Super Bowl and 1 or 2 national championships.
At least 2 I can think of.
Yeah, but either way, it's a lot of hardware leaving the game, baby. A lot of hardware.
Mm-hmm.
But it also said, was Belichick considered a defensive-minded coach?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was kind of his, background per se, coming up through the ranks. And really, if you talk to Saban, he'll say that Belichick really formulated a lot of his philosophy defensively when he was in the league, and then, what he's taken from that in his own coaching philosophy and how he approaches things too.
So that's going to be fun to watch to see but I think Alabama's going to move fast.
Yeah, they said 72 hours. They were going to have a guy in place within 72 hours, which, like I said, I think they said Lanning was actually down at Bama today. So he may not leave.
Very well. But, and that goes back to this piece that I started working on yesterday and regarding Indiana basketball fans in that top 75. And Indiana's problems all started in 2000, which we know what happened in 2000. That's when they fired Bob Knight. I'm not saying that firing Bob Knight was not, that it wasn't the time. It's not that it wasn't the time. It probably was, because, and also doing this piece, it confirmed something else that I showed between 95 and 2000. That drop really, that's when the drop for Indiana started. And Bob Knight won less NCAA tournament games over the last 7 seasons he was in Bloomington than Mike Davis did on his run to the national championship game. And I don't want to hear the crap people like to say, well, those are Bob Knight players. Bull crap. They're all recruited by the damn assistants.
Right. And
Bob Knight had those same players for 7 seasons and couldn't get out of the second round of the NCAA. So, but there's that. Not a lot. Spring football up next for Indiana. Josh Henderson. I want to make sure I mentioned this earlier in the week, and no one else really did, but he officially is declaring for the NFL. That
I'm not
came
sure
out on his deal yesterday.
I'm not sure about that one. Not saying he may, he's not a potential NFL talent. I just don't think he's a first or second rounder. And he would definitely improve his stock if he stayed in school one more year and had a great year. But
this would have been the team to probably do it on, because as opposed to Indiana's very limited and helter-skelter offense early on and not knowing who the freaking quarterback is, that's not going to be an issue for Indiana next year. I promise you. Well, I don't know how Curtis Rourke is not going to be the starter. I mean, I think that he's been brought in for that very reason. But Kurt Cignetti has brought in a ton of guys, but they're all mid-major guys, which I'm not saying that mid-major guys can't play, but when it's all mid-major, I'm like, I wonder, because I look out at Washington and Kalen DeBoer is bringing in Will Rogers to replace Michael Penix. Well, Will Rogers has thrown for freaking 10,000 yards already. 10,000. I mean, I was running his stats, and I'm like, holy crap. This dude, I don't know where I wish I could find the page that I did those notes on, but his first 3 seasons, he completed 70% of his passes. 70.
Yeah, he's as accurate as Penix has been throughout his career.
But he did that at was it Mississippi State? He was at, where was he?
I'm blanking it right now.
Yeah, me too.
For some reason, I went to Kansas State, but that's not it. That kid went to Ohio State. But, Coach Denari has some success at Indiana. He'll have the opportunity to get some of those other guys up on the top of the heap for the potential of coming to Indiana. The running back room.
Let me stop. Let's take a quick break. I should have done this a minute ago. John's beat me on the head like he should be. But let's take a quick break. Shannon Griffith is with us. We got a few more minutes here, and we'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for Yeah, I know.
I thought you would have taken one when I mentioned, I'll have this clip when we come back from break. And then you didn't take a break. I'm like, okay.
He was on a rant. He was. This article that he's working on has got
it's not about IU basketball, so let's just be grateful about that.
You were right. Rogers is from Mississippi State.
Look at his numbers. They're stupid.
Yeah.
There's freaking video game numbers, man. I was like, wow.
Yep.
But did he get hurt his last year? He must have been hurt.
Yeah. Like every quarterback at that level at some point in time is going to take a knock or two here or there.
Well, because in his freshman season, he threw 346 times. In 2023, he threw 237. Let me go from 2020. 2020, 346 throws. 2021 and 2022 combined, almost 1,300 passes he threw. 1,300. That's more than most people throw in a freaking career.
Yeah.
But in 2023, the drop off is like a third of what he had done. And so I'm thinking there has to be an injury. I have to go back and look.
Well, he went from playing under Leach, who running the football was a sin. They didn't work on the run game very much.
My God, is he going to the right guy?
And then the new guy that came in kind of de-emphasized, not that he did emphasize the passing game, but more running was brought into the equation.
He took away what they were doing unbelievably because holy crap. He threw for almost 9,000 yards in 2 freaking seasons.
Yeah.
In 21 and 22, 4,700 yards in 2021, almost basically 4,000 yards in 2022. And then it goes from nearly 4,000 to 1,600.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why
here we go, guys.
All right.
Jim, you'll have about 5-ish minutes till the hard break here. So keep an eye on that. Here we go.
Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Appreciate you being with us here on this Thursday. It's January 11th. I hope everybody's getting ready for the Snowmageddon, whatever's coming. I didn't even realize it. Daggone it. I've had my head down just burrowing like usual. Indiana football roster is set for the spring game. The coaching is set, so they're ready to go. It's not that far away.
No.
And so Kurt Cignetti's first installment of his team is not that far off, and they have a lot of stuff to get done. First of all, you've got all these different guys that have come from all over, a mixture of current players that have come in. Everybody except the 9 guys from JMU are going to go through a change.
Yeah, they're gonna go right to right into the fire, so to speak, from day one here, because I'm sure they're well into their winter workouts and conditioning and things of that magnitude with that conditioning staff that they brought in, and the coaches getting to know the players as well. That dynamic cannot be underestimated, because that's very important that connectivity happens between the new staff and the players that have been at Indiana. It's an exciting time right now, even for the players, because even the players that have been at Indiana, they now get a sense that, hey, I got an opportunity here to compete, because nobody's, ahead of anybody else. They're all kind of on an even playing field. And like I said, these guys are going to be evaluated every day and in every way they possibly can, including classroom performance and, how they handle themselves on and off the field outside the presence of a coach's eye. And, it's an exciting time for everybody involved.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a lot of excitement going into next year. All right, this is just a guess. When Indiana was all pumped up, the fans were pumped up coming off of that 2020 season, man, everything is going to be great. Mm-hmm. I remember going to Iowa City, and you want to talk about a big balloon filled with air and just watching it collapse right in front of you. It didn't really pop. It just went.
Yeah.
You could just see it. I mean, it's like
squeeze
what the hell.
Yeah.
But Iowa, their defense is always tough, number one, but you could just tell it was a weird situation. But my point was, they were able to, going into that season, they were able to, the fans showed up for games that were not big time games. Mm-hmm. And much less, I know they'll show up for big time games, but I'm wondering, in that first game, it's a non-con game against Florida International.
Yes,
against nobody. Are they going to show up for that game?
You would think that usually when you get the new changeover in staff, that happens to bring the enthusiasm out to see what it's all about, riding up to that game. And I think they'll do a lot this off season and summer promoting those type of games that you talked about, especially the number of home games they got this year. That's going to be the key component. Can you catch that, momentum and ride it? Because you've got the opportunity with 8 home games. I think the only thing that they got to find out this spring, they're still a little thin defensively. And I know just talking about with some guys that, they got about all they wanted. They missed on a couple ones defensively that they really wanted. But that's the key component, is can they come out of spring and have an identity of who they have, because you still have that extra next portal opportunity. The other thing to keep an eye on, he's got 89 guys under scholarship. He's got to have that down to 85.
I was going to say, how do you have that many on scholarship?
Well, they've changed the rule now because of the portal and how that all impacts the programs now.
So how do you get down to 85? You can't take a scholarship away.
Yeah, you can. You can highly encourage a gentleman to.
I get that, but unless it's somebody that would play someplace, if it's a low end guy who's not playing, I'm like, you're going to pull the Tim Priller.
Yeah,
you're going to pull Tim Priller. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm using my Scully, baby. They set it up to where you can't take it away at Indiana, so that's going to be something.
It's just a dynamic that where they're at. They're going to have to see where they're at defensively, how that all translates into maybe what they look for in the spring portal, potentially how that impacts scholarships, all the things that are there to pare it down to 85. But there's a lot of things that are happening. The NCAA National Convention was this past week, both football and the NCAA. So there's a lot of dynamics that are coming through that. And the court case that was in West Virginia that placed an injunction against the NCAA from enforcing the double transfer rule, where a kid can only transfer once and have immediate eligibility. Now they can transfer twice or three times and still have that eligibility, which could be that. Yeah. Well, the way it's it's set right now, that could be a little bit of maybe a concern, because there could be some guys that, depending on what happens in the spring, may look for greener pastures other places. So it's going to be an interesting spring. It's going to be a fun spring, and we'll see what happens once those dates get announced and what practices are going to be open to be seen and with our own eyes.
Absolutely. Shannon Griffith, can't thank you enough, man. Look forward to it each and every week. And this is not even football season. Crazy, crazy.
Football now is becoming 365, it appears.
Indiana's a football school. You didn't know that?
It was. It became one probably after the Rutgers game.
Oh boy! Oh God! See, that was not allowed to be brought up. I don't even want to. Boy, my blood pressure was so high yesterday, and
John's got you covered. He'll get you some.
We got to get out of here. We got to get back to it. Appreciate you, brother. We'll see you next week. Coming up next, Tyler Smith joins us. We'll talk some IU basketball as they prepare for the Golden Gophers tomorrow night. Tomorrow night. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the mark. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. You don't know that one either, do you, John?
Nope. What is it?
That's the great Howard Cosell calling the Muhammad Ali Joe Frazier fight. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. He was an attorney. What a great voice for anything. Listening to him was hilarious. Tyler Smith, how are you, sir?
Not too bad. How about you?
Cannot complain. No one wants to listen to it.
Tyler, have the 1-7 people been back in your mentions again? I feel like you've been a good proprietor on trying to say, hey, the 1-7 KenPom might not be as accurate as some people act like it might be.
Well, okay, let's say it's 2-6. How much better does that make it?
Not much. I think they'll get to 3.
Oh, you think they'll go 3 and 5?
Yeah, something like
one
that.
One of them is the game tomorrow. What else is in January? I think the last. I think Iowa is the last game in January. I don't know if it's at home or away, but
it's home.
Regardless, is it home?
Yeah, and that was my main point. Is they're still gonna win several home games, even though they may not win another road game.
And then after the back part of their Big Ten schedule, I mean, the Big Ten schedule is not easy, like in general, but it's very manageable at the end of the season if you have a rough stretch here in January.
Let's see. I'm looking, John Boy. I'm looking for that, and I don't see it. You go from playing Minnesota tonight, which should be a win, or tomorrow night should be a win, but nothing guaranteed because they're not the Minnesota of normal. Then you've got Purdue.
Well, I'm not talking about this month. I'm talking about the schedule.
But then you got Wisconsin. Then you have Illinois. Then you have Iowa. Okay. Then you get Penn State. But then you got Ohio State again. Then you have Purdue again. Then you have Northwestern. Then you have Nebraska.
Right, we got 10 seconds. Here we go. 19 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back here on this Thursday. Thanks a lot for being with us. Appreciate you. Jim Coyle with you as always. Tyler Smith joins us from the Hoosier.com, Indiana Rivals. Indiana coming off of I don't even want to say anything about it. Their next game is Minnesota.
What did you come up with in that game?
Oh, please don't ask my mind to go there. It probably wouldn't be good. But they get to put that behind them and take on Minnesota tomorrow night at home, which will be greatly helpful for them. But this is not just like Nebraska. They're not as good as Nebraska. But this is not your typical Minnesota team. They're coming into this game 3-1 in Big Ten play, although they haven't played a very tough schedule as of right now. But for Indiana, I think that everything is tough. There is not an easy game on here other than potentially Penn State.
Yeah, there are no easy games, but there are some games that will be must win. I feel like Friday is that. Especially when you look at the 3 games coming after Minnesota. You know, I'm usually the optimistic one finding silver linings, but I can't imagine, there's a very high likelihood that Indiana loses the next 3 games after Friday. So they really need Friday's game. And as you mentioned, Minnesota pretty improved. They're coming off, or they're coming in with a 7-game win streak. They've had a very, very similar schedule Big Ten wise to Indiana. They flipped the home and away games with, Ohio State and Nebraska. So they played at Ohio State and hosted Nebraska. So they flipped those wins and losses, but they also won by 2 points at Michigan, like Indiana did. And what was the other one? They also the other game was the same as IU as well. They didn't play Rutgers. So yeah, they hosted Maryland and beat them. So very similar schedule to Indiana. They've played 2 true road games and have split those. So must win for Indiana, but as you said, will not be easy.
No. What is their record right now? Exactly.
12-3, I think. 12-3.
12-3. So this is not pretty. I have them finishing the season 17-18.
Indiana?
Just quickly looking over the schedule. And
that's not even a possible record. You play 31 games. That'd be 35 games.
Well, I just took, if they're 12-3 right now, never mind. That should be a 10. 13. 17-13. Thank you, John, for catching that. I haven't going 17-13. Is that right?
Before postseason?
17-14, possibly.
Yep.
And either one of those ain't getting you anywhere other than the Big Ten tournament. And that's only because everybody can still play in that. But I have not seen anything that I've not seen anything. Tomorrow night's going to be a tough game for Indiana. I think that they win it regardless. But after that, it's still going to be extraordinarily tough. Their next game is at Illinois. And that is not, it's home to Purdue. My bad. Purdue is Purdue, and Indiana doesn't have what they had last year to go against them. And I will wait to preview that game next week. But, I look down the road. After hosting Purdue, they've got to go to Wisconsin and Illinois back to back. I don't see a snowball's chance in hell of them winning either of those games. Then Iowa comes in. That's a 50-50 game, maybe. And you have Penn State coming in. So there's potential 2 wins. But then they have to go to Ohio State. I don't see them winning that game. They have to go to Purdue. They're not going to win that game. You got Northwestern coming in. Another 50-50 game at best, maybe. Nebraska comes in. I put that down as a win. Indiana goes to Penn State. I've got that as a win. Wisconsin comes in. I don't have that as a win. But although it could be. But then they have to go to Maryland. Maryland's good at home. And they have to go to Minnesota, play in the barn. And they'll finish the season with a visit from Michigan State, which I put that down as a win. But Minnesota. Let's talk about Minnesota. And as Indiana prepares for them, they have so many problems that we've talked about. Rebounding and turnovers and free throws. I bring those up because those have been just gigantic problems for Indiana. But rebounding is all about effort and blocking your guy out. It's a simple thing, man. I don't care if you're playing rec ball at the hyper or what. If you don't block people out, they're going to out-rebound you. And if they out-rebound you on the offensive end and put the ball back in, that's in essence a turnover. And those second chance points are like points off turnovers. I had somebody reach out and messages me the other day saying that points off turnovers is an insignificant stat. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. Not only is it a lost possession, it's a lost possession without having the opportunity to score. So and if the other team scores, that's in essence a 4-point swing. Now, yes, is it the same off of a missed shot? Yeah, but you have the opportunity. So, but this Indiana has got to straighten and the ball and the turnovers. Man, they're just can't. I don't think they can hold on to the ball if you put a handle on it, Tyler.
Yeah, it was a miracle they beat Ohio State, getting out rebounded that much in that game. It was one of the craziest stats I've ever seen to still come out with a victory. But as far as taking care of the ball, it's been night and day from home and on the road. It was comforting to hear that you did have them winning one more road game, because I'm not even sure they'll get that the way they've played on the road. But that Penn State game is that possibility probably. But the silver lining as well for Fridays, Minnesota does turn the ball over as well. Both these teams are kind of in the same 12.5 turnovers a game. So I would like to see Indiana come out with some aggressive defense like they did at the end of the Rutgers game. See if they can turn Minnesota over a little bit and have that, turn into some points, because they also don't get a ton of points off of turnovers themselves from creating turnovers. So same old problems though: free throws, rebounding, turnovers, and it's just completely a different story for this team away from Assembly Hall. Again, I don't know if they can, every road game the rest of the season is looking like it's going to be really tough. And if they don't get multiple more road wins, doesn't matter how well they play at home, it's not going to lead to postseason berth.
Nope. Fred asking, does Xavier Johnson start? You've had a curfew violation 2 years ago at Northwestern. You had his race speed racer incident down College or Walnut, whatever it was, through the Bloomington driving 90. And then the flagrant foul at Rutgers the other night. And this is coming from your senior leader, your sixth-year guy, your guy that is, after every one of these transgressions, has said, I need to grow up. I need to be the leader of this team, yada, yada. Okay, whatever. But on the other side of that coin, guys like Joe Hillman and Brian Evans that were on the postgame show the other night, and there have been no consequences for anybody on this team for anything. Mm-hmm. Mbako, nothing. Didn't miss a second. Horrible play. Nobody. The only reason you hit the bench is if it's at a certain time mark in a game and you're coming out because everybody's coming out. Not only do I wonder if Xavier starts, does Mike Woodson continue with this same substitution pattern strategy? I know he doesn't pay attention to any of this stuff out here, which I don't blame him, but so he's not affected by that. But I do know that assistants do. I know for a fact. Mm-hmm. I've gotten a text before that was simply a picture of a laptop with the show up while we were doing the show. No text, no comment, just that. So they know what's going on. Now, I don't know. I don't think any of that is related to Woody, because I don't think that they're questioning anything about his substitution. And yesterday when I was talking to Rick Bozich about it, I acknowledge everybody knows that you need to substitute. Everybody else does the same thing. But you don't have to take everybody out at the same time. Mm-hmm. You're bringing in an entire quote unquote second unit. Dude, you're not bringing in, like last night, the Pacers, they got 3 guys off the bench that score in double figures. Benedict Mathurin is coming off the bench. You don't have a Benedict Mathurin coming off the bench. Yep. You don't have a TJ McConnell coming off the bench. You don't have a Jordan Nora coming off the bench. All those guys gave double figures. And for Woodson to say the reason he does it is, I got to give these guys a blow, and I went to the bench, and I've had some success here and there. Mm-hmm. Well, here and there sounds very sparingly, number one. So that tells me, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this because I've had a modicum, a little bit of success. A little bit of success, who cares? You need a lot of success.
Yeah, and I know there's some fans who don't pay as much attention to some of the numbers, and maybe they even get frustrated with the talks of analytics and things like that. But it would not be hard at all to look at net ratings of lineups, and at least for the assistants on the staff to look at, hey, when these 3 guys play together, we're a negative whatever, and maybe we should look at some different combinations when we are resting guys. That would not be that difficult to do. I thought he was, for a few games there, he was doing better, in my opinion, at the subbing, but then last game had that kind of hockey style line of 4 guys out. And I don't know if he pays attention to the outside noise, but he definitely is getting a little frustrated when he's asked the question. So he's definitely aware of, the frustration coming from, fans, because he even mentioned fans and media alike as far as questioning that. So when it comes to Xavier Johnson, I would imagine he's going to start and play. I think a lot of people would like to see him at least not start the game to send a message there, but I don't know if anything's going to get through at this point when you're almost 24 years old and playing for a long time. So we'll have to see what happens.
And I wonder if this constant fear of losing also supersedes that. So we shall see there. But Indiana needs this win desperately, because if not, it could set off a trickle-down effect, because after that, you've got Purdue, like I said, Wisconsin and Illinois, those last two on the road, which will not be fun before coming back to take on an Iowa team that is going to challenge them. So, but everything's going down tomorrow night, man. And the Hoosier.com will be there. I'll be there, and we'll look forward to it.
Should be a good one. Thanks a lot.
Make sure you give Tyler Smith a follow and go to the Hoosier.com. They'll take care of you. Be a subscriber. I am. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Chris Denari right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Formerly.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yep. See you tomorrow, Jim.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Morning, Chris.
Hey, hello. How are you?
Long time
Good.
Long time no see.
No talk. Yeah, your camera's dead, but
Let me see.
Oh,
he gone. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
let's see. Hey, Chris, we got you back.
You got it back?
Yeah, but well, your camera's not on, but that's okay. If it doesn't work for you, don't worry about it.
All right. I have no idea why.
Do you have he has the same settings we do, right, John? On
I mean, are you using your phone today, Chris, or are you on your laptop?
No, I'm on my computer.
So go.
If you go down to the bottom, go ahead.
There should be a tab at the bottom of your screen that says "Start Camera."
Yeah, I went to settings and where I go to camera, it's blank.
That's interesting. I wonder if maybe your camera's.
Wait a minute. Do you have a camera on your computer or your laptop?
He just disappeared again. I would just not worry about it, Jim.
Yeah, I hear you.
Just let him do the segment since we're getting run out of time. His camera may be dead if it's separate or broken. Mm-hmm. All right, 30 seconds. I'll try to wait for him to pop back in before I bring us in from commercial. But if not, then we'll be fine regardless. All right. I guess I'll be back shortly.
36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday, January 11. Hope you're ready for the Snowmageddon that apparently might be coming towards us. Chris Denari, the TV voice of the Indiana Pacers, joins us. And Chris, great to see you last night, first of all.
Yeah, if you're watching right now, you can't see me now, but Jim saw me last night at the Pacers game. It was great to see you. Pacers did what they needed to do, and that was just get a win in their first game without Tyrese Halliburton. You're playing one of the teams with the worst records in the NBA, so you're always a little worried about that. But They had a nice run to start the second half and, really, put the game away at that point. So head out on a 6-game road trip later today. Pacers are 22-15, 7 over 500, currently tied for 4th in the Eastern Conference. So they're in a good position, and now we'll see how they'll respond on the road without Tyrese.
Yeah, I was wondering in the presser last night, I was going to ask, without Tyrese, they still have a young team, a lot of young players. And obviously he said that the games are going to be different without Halliburton, and of course they are. But is this – well, they don't really have a choice. But can they use this as an opportunity to help grow some of these other guys, whether it's Benedict Mathurin or McConnell continue to come off the bench, Jordan Nora off the bench, all 3 of those guys in double figures off the bench last night. And then Jordan Nora with 9 rather, Isaiah Jackson had 12 off the bench. You almost had 4 players off the bench scoring double figures. 4.
Yeah, I do think that. I think they also, there was an earlier game this year where Tyrese missed it in Miami. After the Heat had beaten the Pacers on a Thursday, Tyrese was unavailable to play on Saturday. And, you went into that game thinking, well, here's going to be a sweep situation for Miami. And the Pacers won that game and played very, very well. And I think that gave them a lot of confidence that they didn't have last year when they didn't have Tyrese Halliburton. So, it's a little bit different when you go on the road. Atlanta tomorrow night. Atlanta's a team the Pacers twice have scored 150 points against. So I'm sure Atlanta's going to be thinking payback, if you will. But I do think this team has more talent. They have more experience than they had last year in being able to deal with their best player out. I mean, as you look throughout the NBA, at some point during the season, your best player is probably going to be out. So everybody has to deal with this. And this is a situation the Pacers find themselves in right now.
Obi Toppin, a great night, especially from 3-point behind the arc. He was 3 of 6, man, 6 of 10 overall. Just a great shooting night for him. The only, I don't want to call it, it's not a negative, but Andrew Nembhard had a rough night going 1 of 8. Was the only starter not in double figures with just 2 points. So, if he had a decent night, Indiana crushes, or the Pacers crush Washington, but they still get out of there with a pretty, I don't want to call it easy win. No win's easy, but it was a very manageable win. It was not something that they were being pushed toward the end. They were
there's no question. When you look at what they were able to accomplish, they got a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter. They were able to keep Washington really at arm's length throughout that second half. And I thought Nembhard did not play well. He turned it over early, didn't shoot it well. The other Pacer that didn't play very well last night, at least didn't shoot the ball very well, was Buddy Hield off the bench. And we know he's a capable 3-point shooter. But I think, Jim, it shows you the depth that they've been able to create with this roster. Mathurin played really well off the bench. I thought Bruce Brown had a solid game. McConnell gave the Pacers energy as he does when he comes off the bench. So they have enough players that if somebody is off one night, you've got somebody that can help pick them up.
Yeah, Bruce Brown going for 18 and 13. That's a great night at work, and go have yourself a beer after on that one.
Yeah, I mean he's been a tremendous player. I think for this team, he comes from a winning culture. He won a title last year in Denver. I would assume on Sunday when we return, it'll be a ring ceremony for Bruce Brown getting his championship ring from last year. So, yeah, a lot of good performances last night. I thought Miles Turner was really strong, especially in the second half. And that's what you have to do when your best player is not available. You've got to have other players step up, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and so this would give the Pacers something good to go on the road. You go on to these long road trips, and not only is it a road trip, but it's a West Coast swing, which just kind of adds to the fatigue factor. Which I know it's small, but you have to think about all those little things. Being away from home, not sleeping in your own bed. There's just all that stuff that when you go on the road, it's just not the same. It's not quite as comfortable, and there's no way that doesn't affect the psyche.
Oh, no question. I mean, I'm getting ready to pack for 12 days. I mean, last year we had a 13-day road trip. I mean,
how many bags do you have to take on this trip?
Well, that's what I'm trying to think. I have a garment bag with my suits and my shirts. I'll have a big suitcase, and I'm thinking about taking one smaller suitcase that I can put dirty clothes in, that kind of stuff. So those are all things you have to think about. I mean, 12 days is a long time to be away from home. Traditionally,
at least you're not having to pay for bags.
Yeah. I mean, traditionally, you go on a 3 or 4 game road trip and you might be gone for 6 days, maybe 7 days. 12 days is a long time. That's almost 2 weeks. I mean, we leave today and won't be back until a week from Monday because we are staying the night in Phoenix after we play them on the 21st. So, this is a long road trip. And I don't think people, understand what that's like. Sure, these guys are professional athletes. Sure, they make good money, but it's still, you're a human being. This isn't a video game where you hit X and, Bruce Brown does whatever he does. He's a human being. So these players have to deal with being away from family, loved ones, those types of things. You're crisscrossing the country. You've got back-to-backs. It's all the things that we signed up for. So we understand that's a part of what all we do, but it's still very difficult, especially when you're, in that mindset of you've been home for a while. So we all have to adapt and deal with it. And that's what we'll deal with starting today.
Right now, the Pacers with 7 games over 500, just 3 games back of Milwaukee in first place of the Central standings. Don't they have a winning record over Milwaukee so far this season?
4-1. I mean, if you look at their record against the top teams in the Eastern Conference, they're 2-2 against Boston. They're 4-1 against Milwaukee. They're 1-1 against Philadelphia. I believe in the East, they're the only team that has beaten all of those top teams in the Eastern Conference, Philadelphia, Boston, and Milwaukee. Nobody else has done that. So, they've been up to the challenge against some of the best teams in the NBA. That can only help them as they move forward throughout the year.
Yeah, and looking at the playoff standings right now in the Eastern Conference, they're in that 4th slot tied with the Knicks. And that's just a little – that has to be surprising to a lot of people for them to be that high this soon with the team that they have. Not that shocking because we saw what they did last year, but that's – sitting 4th in the playoff standings. That's pretty damn. That's tight.
Yeah, if they could finish 4th, that's home court advantage in the first round. That would be huge. And but it's so bunched up, Jim. You look at those standings. Last week when they beat Atlanta on a Friday night, they were 4th. The next night they lost the first of the 2 games against Boston, and they went to 7th. That's how tight the standings are 4 through about 9. The Bulls are starting to play better. They're still a little bit under 500. The Hawks are playing better. Toronto, you have a number of teams there that are sandwiched in that situation. But really, it's Cleveland, the Knicks, Orlando, the Pacers. You've got 4 or 5 teams jumbled there, all about a half game back of each other. So if you win a couple, you can get to 4th, like where the Pacers are. If you lose a couple, all of a sudden you can fall back to 7th, and that would put you in the play-in. Still a long way to go. We're not even halfway through the season. The Pacers hit the halfway point of the season a week from today when they'll be in Sacramento. But one of the things Quinn Buckner and I talked about last night on the telecast, Jim, last night was the 21st home game of the year. That means there are only 20 home games left. So we've played half of the home schedule at Gainbridge Fieldhouse already. And I'll tell you, that's sort of hard to believe right now.
And they have to get through this road stretch without Tyrese Halliburton. And obviously that is going to make things very, very difficult. What is the best outcome that they can that you expect to see them come away with? I mean, in reality, being on the road, you don't have Tyrese. You're not going to win every game. You're not going to lose every game. But how formidable is this going to be?
I mean, I think anybody would say when you go out on a road trip, especially of this nature, if you could go 3-3, if you could have a 500 road trip and keep you at 7 games over 500 heading back home, that would probably be a win. Now you're trying to win every game. You want to go 6-0, but you also have to think about things realistically. The other piece is the good news is Tyrese Halliburton will be traveling with the Pacers, so he'll be working with the athletic training staff on the road. They will evaluate him when the Pacers return from that road trip. So that's as you look at it, we'll be gone for 2 weeks. That's the 2 weeks that he will be going through his rehab, and then will be reevaluated once the Pacers get back. All in all, Jim, when you look at the injury that happened on Monday night, the Pacers got the best outcome they could have gotten, because when he went down, you wondered, did he tear something? Is this going to be a month-long injury? Is it going to be a season-ending injury? So the fact that at least we're at the 2-week point, now it could be longer, but he'll be reevaluated after 2 weeks. That's the best outcome the Pacers could have ever gotten.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for that mid-December 4-game losing streak, man, they would really be sitting pretty. They in late December. Well, actually, as of right now, they've won 8 out of their last 10 games.
Yeah, no question. They've won 8 of 9 because they had lost 6 of 7, and
with the conference leading Boston Celtics, so went over them.
Right. Well, I mean, 3 of those wins were 2 against Milwaukee and 1 against Boston, and so that's been the most impressive part of what they've done is they've beaten really, really good teams.
Absolutely, and so there's no confusion to think that they won't continue that. Is Wes Unseld Jr. the head coach of Washington?
Yes, yeah.
I did not know that. That is mind-boggling. I did not know there was a Wes Unseld Jr.
Yeah.
And I heard that last night, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Wes Unseld, of course, for our fans listening in Southern Indiana, Louisville, a major figure for the Louisville Cardinals back in the day, but more probably well-known playing for the Bullets, the old Washington Bullets, and he would later coach. But where did he go to? Did he play in college?
Wes Unseld, let's see. I've got my chart here. He was a longtime assistant in the NBA, 16 years. Johns Hopkins is where he went to school, class of 97.
Wow, he must be smart on top of
that. But a longtime assistant. He was in Denver with Michael Malone for many years. And he's now in the midst of a rebuild. I mean, think about it. They were a really good team 5, 6, 7 years ago when they had John Wall and Bradley Beal. Last year they had Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis, but they opted to trade Beal to Phoenix, Porzingis now in Boston. So it's a total rebuild for the Washington Wizards, and I'm sure can be tough for everyone. They're 6-31. That's never easy. Not easy on the players, the coaches, let alone the broadcasters who have to call those games each and every night. But he's been a quality assistant coach in the NBA, and hopefully he'll have some success down the road.
Absolutely. I think the Indiana Hoosiers could probably use a lot of the Pacers bench. They have not been getting much in that regard. And you can see, like I said, by looking at the stat sheet, the difference when you have 4 guys, nearly 5 guys, or nearly 4 players off the bench, Nora with 7, that are in double figures. That's just a crazy stat, but that shows the depth that you have and that you have to pick up someone like Andrew Nembhard, who went 1 for 8 last night. Buddy Hield went 0 for 5. So between those 2 guys, they were 1 of 13. And those are guys you normally count on for production, but that's why you have depth, because there's going to be a night where somebody just is off or whatever the case is.
Yeah, Jim, they've had 2 games recently the Pacers, they had 4 guys off the bench in double figures. I mean, and they are the leading bench. They score the most points of any bench in the NBA. They average about 50 points. It helps that you have somebody like Benedict Mathurin, who Rick Carlisle has said, look, he's a starter, but we have the luxury of bringing him off the bench. So that's been huge for the Pacers, I think, over the last 2 years. And I think that's one of the reasons why they are more suited to be able to handle the injury of Tyrese Halliburton. No, are you going to replace him? Absolutely not. He's one of the best players in the NBA, if not the best point guard right now in the NBA. But what they learned last year, I think, will help them this year. And they've got enough very capable players who can help pick up the scoring load.
Yeah, I'm trying to look down there through the season. They've had obviously Halliburton is going to be the leading scorer for most of the time, but that's not the case every time. It's Mathurin. There was a night Mathurin had 34, Hield had 25, Toppin had 22, Turner 24, 28. There's so many different Brown, Neesmith, so many different names that were the leading scorers, and that's got to give Rick Carlisle some easy sleeping nights.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jim. I think that gives you a lot of confidence. If you looked at the game-by-game breakdown and of the first 37 games, and Tyrese Halliburton was your leading scorer 33 times, I think you might have some concern, right? Because can other players step up? Well, that's not the case. If you look at the game-by-game, just as you said, you made note of all those different names. Sure, Tyrese Halliburton is their leading scorer at almost 24 points per game, but each and every night he is not the leading scorer. And so I think that helps that you have other guys that know they are capable of putting big numbers on the board.
All right, man. So when you head out on the road, is there anything special you take with you just to have as a creature comfort?
Make sure I always have a mini speaker, so I can listen to music and podcasts. I mean, you can use your computer.
And Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, I'm sure.
That's right. I mean, I'll have plenty of time. I'll have plenty of time to listen to all of that because I'll be on the road for 12 days. And I think we have 2 days off between games in Salt Lake City and Sacramento. So plenty of time to listen to Jim Coyle, podcasts, music, and prepare for all those games that we'll be doing in the next 2 weeks.
Well, it was a great seeing you. Like I said, look forward to it. See you again in a few weeks when you get back, and have a safe trip, fun, and hope you guys keep on winning because it's fun. And the Pacers fans are into this. It was a cold night in Indianapolis, but it didn't matter. Washington is, like you said, a team on the rebuild, so it's not a team that's going to draw huge, but the Pacers have become a part of the Indianapolis fabric. Not that they haven't been for a long time. Right. Obviously, they won some ABA titles. Reggie, when you had Reggie, but it's like the Colts. I mean, Indianapolis just loves their teams, and they support them pretty damn well as any city in the country, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think people are very excited. We saw that start to build last year in December and January, the way they played, the excitement around Tyrese. And you're right. I mean, last night, almost 16,000 on a Wednesday night. It's cold. It's not a particular, high name or really good opponent, but yet the fans are there to watch their team, the Pacers. And that's what's been, I've really enjoyed that all year long, is seeing the fans and the excitement that they bring to Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And again, halfway through now the home season, when the Pacers get back, they've got Phoenix, Denver, Philadelphia, and Memphis. So 4 high-level opponents that the Pacers will see once they get back from this road trip.
Looking forward to it, my friend. I hope it's a great, safe one, and look forward to seeing you again.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Chris Denari, the voice of the Indiana Pacers for Bally Sports. And we've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with all that and more right after this break.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
All right, guys.
I'll have parking next time set up,
okay,
Chris. So I will be able just to go out to the garage and take care of that.
All right. I will see you next time.
Stuff. Got some good stuff for you.
Oh, I look forward to it.
Napa Valley, baby. Napa Valley.
All right. Take care.
See you, buddy. Very fortunate to have Chris on with us each week.
Oh, yeah.
He's been around, seen that. What is ketamine? What does that do?
Yes, could be. I don't even want to try to guess because I wouldn't know any better.
Well, I know someone's going to start saying it, so I'll just Google it. I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. I'm going to be honest with you. Ketamine is a dissociative anesthetic used medically for induction and maintenance of anesthesia.
See, I almost said something to do with gasoline, but that's kerosene, not ketamine.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. Ketamine is a drug. It also is used as a treatment for depression and as a pain management tool. Ketamine is a novel compound that was derived from phencyclidine in 1962 in pursuit of a safer anesthetic with fewer side effects, I guess. That got cut off. No, with fewer hallucinogenic effects. I started reading that because I just happened to see a thing where Pete Davidson admitted that he was on ketamine, high on ketamine, when he attended Aretha Franklin's funeral, because he has a special and he opened it up. He was talking about it and he said, "I thought it would be a good idea," or I should save this.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll save it
on the air.
All right, let's get over here to some comments. I'm not meaning to ignore you guys, but we've had a good show today that has just been full of chatter. Oh, Saban has 7.
Oh, he has 6.
There. Well, he has 6 at Alabama. Did he win one at
LSU? Maybe you're right.
LSU?
I didn't even think about that. Oh, and I've got that clip with the dude the calamari thing.
Well, yeah, I wanted to use it for.
You don't have to reference it again, but I do have it in case you did want to.
Oh, we could play it just because I never miss an opportunity to hear that because I love it. But I want it. But next time, keep it close because next time that Shannon's on, I want to play that for him. Not that he hasn't heard it, but.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, there you
Steakhouse, Chop Shop, Market and Table. A part of the Wild Food Group is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. Appreciate you. Brian commenting that that sounds nothing like Howard Cosell. I did my impersonation earlier. No, I do not claim to have a good Howard Cosell. His voice was so distinct. Down goes Frazier. I don't have his I can't even lock into. That's one I can't even lock into. But it's just to go back and listen to his old clips would be great. I'll have to have you pull some up just to give you an education. Loading says he saw Kenny Payne got a win last night for Louisville against Miami. I saw that score on my phone and I just assumed it was the Louisville women's program. And I'm like, well, I'll be damned, it was the men. That was a nice win. Indiana's women's team had a little bit of a scare last night with Penn State, but Sydney Parrish, they were down by 9. And 3 minutes later, Sydney Parrish, all by her lonesome, had the Hoosiers ahead. And speaking of the women's team, they have a monster game on Saturday. Assembly Hall is going to just be busy. Friday night, Indiana men hosting Minnesota in a must-win game. Saturday, Indiana women hosting
Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes, I think that it will be louder on Saturday than it will be on Friday. My guess. I saw something earlier about the Caitlin Clark effect as far as attendance, and don't know where that was, to be honest with you. But it showed in, that was like 6 games, road games. The most recent, I think, was last night at Purdue, where they normally will draw 4,000 fans for a women's game. 14,000. That's what Mackey holds. So I don't know if they sold that out. I'm sure that they did. Normally for a 10 plus 10,000. I think it was Wisconsin that also had a similar jump like that. Now, Indiana women, I'm not sure what they're averaging, but I'm going to guess it's 9,000 thereabouts from what I saw at the Michigan game, which was just a conference game. Michigan's not great. They're not terrible, but there's no, I would be shocked if it's not sold out Saturday night. Caitlin Clark is having an effect. And on top of that, if she leaves school and goes to the WNBA, she will be playing right up the road at Gainbridge Fieldhouse for the Indiana Fever. Man, that will change their fortunes in a positive way. I think in a lot of ways. You could dislike Caitlin Clark if you like, but those numbers don't lie. People are coming to watch her play. Well, number one, and she's a badass. Let's just tell the truth. She's a badass. That girl can shoot as well as anybody. And she chucks it up from 4 feet behind the arc. She's not even paying attention where that is. She's in range once she crosses half court. And she's not a ball hog. She's probably her team leader in assists, which is shocking when you score the amount of points that she does. Pretty impressive. It's easy to dislike her because she is not playing for a team you like, and she's got some personality. But I promise you, whoever you root for, if she was on your team, you would freaking love her. It's like any other star. This is just how it goes. So there's that. Lots going on. My man Tony Smoot is going to be busy getting the hall in shape this weekend. So much going on there. Busy weekend for Indiana basketball. Numbers 1, 2, 3, 5 in the AP Top 25 poll this week go down. Of course, Purdue and Houston lost 2 days ago. Purdue to Nebraska. Houston. Who did Houston lose to? I forget, John.
It was Iowa State. They lost to.
Iowa State. There you go. And then last night, Mississippi State beats number 5 Tennessee, and number 3 Kansas loses to Central Florida. Kansas is the weakest top 5 team that there is. They are not that good. We saw them play Indiana at home, and Indiana could have beaten them. That's not I just don't see them as a top 5 team, but of course, who is? It's really, we're so used to having teams like the Dukes of old, the Kentuckys of old, that were dominant. Back in the day, Indiana, whomever, but even recently, you've had teams that were really good. Baylor.
We haven't had, in my opinion, there hasn't been a dominant team in college basketball, like truly,
since
like
Baylor.
a team that you look at and say, they're the best team in the country. I'm not even going to say Baylor. I would go back further to Zion Williamson and Duke. That Duke team was the team that everybody looked at as nobody is going to stop them.
Yeah, well, it's the portal has changed that, man. It has
for sure.
It is it has really leveled the playing field, which I'm cool with that. It's just, it seems like, well, it's because you don't have as many teams that are great, because you have more teams that are good, and it just equals out. And it's just something we're going to have to get used to. But man, 1, 2, 3, 5. That means number 4, UConn on the clock, baby. I didn't look. I'm assuming they beat Xavier last night. I know that that's where they were playing. They were up early when I saw that. But yeah, Central Florida knocks off Kansas at home 65-60. UConn, just a 5-point win over Xavier. So they get out of there. They're 14-2 overall, 4-1 in the Big East, and they will ascend to the top spot, I would assume, and they're the reigning national champion. It shocks me that they have not, because I've been wondering, why is UConn not getting up? Every time we'd see Purdue get beat, Kansas get beat, Arizona get beat, but UConn just kept hanging in that same spot. And I'm like, why? I think that they're the best team in the country right now, and it's taken them this long to get to number 1, and they're not there yet. They've got I'm sure that they have a game coming up this weekend. As they do, they will. Oh yeah, they play Georgetown at home, so that would be a shocker if they were to lose that. I would assume UConn will be the new number 1 team when the new poll comes out. But we'll have to wait for that. Looking forward to it. Let's see. Man, this has been a busy week and more coming. What a busy weekend. I don't even get to go to the Iowa game. I'm a little pissed. George is pissed. I didn't realize the Iowa game was Saturday until yesterday. And I'm finally getting to do Christmas with my daughter. Everyone's schedules have been jacked all over the place. So I will Santa Claus Saturday, but I will be checking
January Santa.
Yeah, I hate missing that game. I really do, because that should be a tremendous basketball game. Indiana is, man, they haven't struggled, but they also haven't impressed as they did last year. You know, they have a problem with Penn State last night at home. They were down 11, which that was surprising. But they won. But if you look at the AP poll, they've been hanging in the same spot, which I think that this just has to be a reflection of what the pollsters think of this team. And I get it, because they have not impressed. And that 30-point loss at Stanford, that's hard to get out of your head. 30-point loss. I don't know how a good team can lose by 30. A team that has the talent that Indiana has. Sidney Parrish, Mackenzie Holmes, Sarah Scalia, all those shooters, and they got blistered by Tara Vanderveer's Stanford squad. Tara Vanderveer, by the way, an Indiana graduate, if you didn't know. So there's that. So plenty going on to keep you warm this weekend. And hopefully the weather does not affect things. But we shall see how everything goes. I want to make sure I don't miss out on any of these great comments. Yeah, sometimes I ramble, Bobby. There's no lie to that. I've even talked about that I've recently just happened to be, I don't listen to our shows, but I was listening to it, and I'm like, dude, shut up. And I was talking about myself. So, yep. It's easy to do when you sit here and do a talk show. It's hard not to talk. There's so much stuff going through this whacked out ADHD brain of mine that it just comes like that. But looking forward to tomorrow's program. My man Bob Kravitz, saw him last night at the Pacer game as well, as Dustin DePirick saw him. Zach Osterman joins us, of course, Casey Bartley, and Greg Smith. He is the National Recruiting Director for football at Rivals, and he's going to join us to talk about Indiana, the changes, the prospects, the new Big Ten. There's so much going on that side of the ball for Indiana, and the fact that we're talking about football with anticipation, the fans are excited. I'm going to be interested to see what that does to if there's a bump in season tickets or if people wait. Which I would assume they're going to kind of be in this wait and see mode, but there's a lot of excitement. I cannot thank everybody enough for being on the show today. As always, big thanks to our good friend Shannon Griffith, Tyler Smith from the Hoosier.com, Chris Denari of the Pacers, John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. And of course, the biggest thanks of all goes to each and every one of you. Without you, we have no reason to be here, and we would regret that. So looking forward to coming back and doing that again tomorrow. Then, of course, after the game with Todd Leary returns following that Minnesota game, and Todd will, I believe, should be back with us. But looking forward to that. You guys go out and have yourselves a great day. Thank you so much, as always. Until tomorrow, Jim Coyle, I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.